brain's in order today. That's where it is. It's totally organized. Everything's great.
I can't help you. I
know, right? Hello and welcome to Khyber Shards, a 5th edition actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world. It's Friday, so we have Khyber Shards answers, and we are joined by Casey. Hi, Casey.
Hello. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, and we survived the Feywild.
We did survive
Hooray.
the Feywild. Yeah, that's what we'll call it. We did.
Well, at least survived, I mean.
It's forever changed.
That's and that's an interesting thing to say, and I'm curious. Obviously, we'll see things play out, but what do you think this changes about Shade, or maybe what does Shade think this changes about Shade, just on first glance?
I don't know that I or Shade fully know the repercussions of what happened in the Feywild, but things that I've been thinking about, that I've been thinking that Shade is thinking, is a big one is definitely River is the only ward that Shade has ever had. And we see that Shade is very protective of River, and in a way that she isn't protective of like a lot of people, including ones that she should be protective of, those poor kids. But Shade has a lot of love for River, and for River to now be permanently in the Feywild instead of right outside, I think is going to heavily impact Shade. Just, I think she will miss her a lot, which I tried to convey. Yeah. I know, maybe a little too heavily, but I think that it's going to bring up some questions for did Shade do what she was supposed to? Did she fulfill her responsibility in caring for that youngling before she has to now, reign over the Feywild on her own?
No, that's, yeah, I know. I thought that conveyed really well in the way the last episode. I'm so pleased with the way that the last episode turned out, because I really had nothing in my notes beyond the fight, because I didn't know how long the fight was going to happen. I had a general idea of the problem that would need to be resolved, assuming that you guys killed the Laughing Lord, which I pretty confidently assumed you would eventually. Y'all did it faster than I thought you would, but but I certainly figured y'all would not just going to let the Laughing Lord go about his business.
That's correct.
And so I knew that was going to need to be taken care of. And River taking it over is certainly the most obvious option given the circumstances. But I didn't really decide what River would do or what the Queen would do, because I wanted to leave it open to the influence of the player characters. And so I really had, other than there's a domain, somebody needs to take it over, that was about all I had for the second half of that session. Because I wasn't really 100% sure whether the fight would take the entire first episode, right, or what. So yeah, I was very unaware of how it would end up, and I loved the way that it ended up. It was great. So
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think Shade's interaction with the Forest Queen is not over.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Shade did not pick up on any questionable sentences that the Forest Queen said. But Casey the
Mm-hmm.
player is very curious about a couple of comments and phrasing that the Forest Queen used.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I don't know fully the effect of this, but the last couple of conversations between Shade and Ari were, big picture, whether or not interested in dating, but also Ari mentioned wanting kids,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is something Shade has not considered. And the closest thing to that, and not that Shade and Rivers relationship is mother
Yeah,
daughter, but the closest relationship that she's had to that,
sure.
um, just went in a very unexpected route.
Yeah, it was, I mean, guardianship, certainly,
Yes, yes, there you go.
and it was, well, I mean, it's kind of like super accelerated. Like, you guys rescued River and she was entirely helpless and needed y'all's help to work out how to talk to people and what things were called, and like she was genuinely just helpless, um and couldn't control her powers and all of these things, and over time got comfortable in her own skin and all this, and then of course over the course of this adventure becomes this self autonomous entity,
Right.
has a whole nervous breakdown experience and everything, and ends up um necessarily independent. And so it's like a super hyper accelerated experience of guiding someone through growing up. That is interesting. I hadn't thought of it in those terms, but that makes a lot of sense, in looking at the way that River and Shade have interacted. That is very interesting. And I hadn't thought about it in terms of Shade and Ari, but that's it. I am very interested to see the effect on the dynamic, um, of Pog and Shade having successfully gone on an adventure of their own, and there is no chance whatsoever that they get back and anybody scolds them for what they did. Like, Pog and Shade's extremely successful animal prison heist, prison break, was, you brought all this attention on us and all this, and this time it was everyone you met in the Feywild praised everything that you did. And I don't know what the effect
Which
of
was
that is, if it's good
nice.
or bad. Yeah, no, some positive reinforcements, great.
Shade is not accustomed to that.
So I'm excited to see that. River's status is the subject of the first question that we have, which is from Emily. Emily asks, Philip, would River / the Keeper of the Grove be capable of offering warlock pacts? Yes, 100%. You
That's
could.
fantastic.
I don't like. I don't know that I would call River an archfey, and I guess technically the term of the pact is archfey, but I would absolutely let someone take a domain ruling fey rather than one of the sort of free roaming archfey, for a warlock patron. So yes, someone could totally become a Fey Pact warlock of the Keeper of the Grove and have the task of protecting forests everywhere, and be a sort of environmental warlock. Yes, I think that would be hilarious. So
I'm
it's a
gonna
great,
put that in
great,
my back pocket for later.
right. That's probably what became of Thistle. I think we just left Thistle in River's domain. Um,
She
so
was happy there.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying that she's in trouble or anything. But it occurred to me after we finished recording that we didn't really account for where Thistle ended up. So yeah, that's probably where Thistle is. She's probably the first
I
warlock of the Keeper of the Grove.
I don't think I'm the only one, but I we would love to see her again. Thistle was Thistle was very fun. And somebody made this comment in the comments, at the beginning she was a little annoying and but I mean, obviously has all of our hearts now.
I Thistle's personality, I didn't think of it in the moment. Like Thistle was entirely on the fly the first time that y'all met her. Um, because
That's fantastic.
well, I intended the conversation with Ponderous to get you to the Forest Queen, but Ponderous was too much Ponderous, and you guys just couldn't handle it before it
Right.
left. And it wouldn't have made any sense for him to suddenly go, "Oh wait, I've suddenly thought of something really helpful to say." And so, like, okay, somebody's got to be here. It's a pixie. Pixie. Here we go.
Nor would he want to offer more
No,
information in the way that we treated him. Like,
right. Um, but afterwards, it occurred to me that what happened with Thistle is I just used J.M. Barrie's explanation of pixies, that they're so small that they can only hold one feeling in themselves at a time, which is why like Tinkerbell hates Wendy so intensely, because she's not capable of nuance because she's just too small. Like, so the emotion of her love for Peter and her sense of jealousy is incapable of coexisting together. And so she loves Peter in this moment and hates Wendy. And that's all she's doing while she hates Wendy. And so that's Thistle is everything that Thistle does is done 100 and crazy percent.
that is fantastic.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed playing Thistle. Thistle was fun. I'm very pleased with the way that Thistle was introduced, because driving you guys absolutely crazy was delightful. So yes, no, that was a lot of fun. Yes, I would be delighted to see River the Warlock patron. Emily has a question for you. I know that Nasaria currently has no desire to be an adventurer, but if she were to become an adventurer when she grows up, what class do you think she would do best as?
I could see her becoming an adventurer out of like the need to correct others doing it. Okay. You're just going to get yourself killed. Fine, fine, fine. Let me help you out. I think she would probably be a wizard or a sorcerer. I think just that pursuit of knowledge and information, those classes would suit her well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. My immediate reaction was wizard. Um, I could perceive bard only because bards get that thing where they get like half their proficiency in every skill, and so bards know it all. Like they
Okay. I did
literally
not know
all
that.
know it. Yeah. It's called Jack of all trades. Bards get to add half their proficiency to all the skills they're not proficient in. And I could imagine a reinterpretation of bardic inspiration as Nasaria's sort of hectoring correction, of what you were doing and how you did it wrong, and now you'll do it better because you've heard Nasaria's excellent advice on how
Yes.
to do it correctly. Yeah. Laura asks a very interesting question. What would Shade have done if she was the one who had to decide what to do with the Green Knight?
I've actually thought about this a lot. um in in the moment leading up to it, because I know that story. Philip, you are the one that introduced the story of Gawain and the Green Knight to me.
Oh.
And I love it. And so I remember thinking, oh no, if she like Shade would not want Pog to be the one that obviously goes and does this, but Casey the player, like, Shade just isn't as honorable as
Mhm.
Pog is. And Shade is very, survival driven. She would not have just let her head get chopped off.
No.
She wouldn't have. Um, and I'm so glad it played out the way that it did for so many reasons. One of them is, you know, Pog's Pog's honor is such a big part of him, and that was such a beautiful moment. And then for Shade, as a player, I struggled with whether or not she would watch this happen. And so as a way to have Shade grow, I had her not step in,
Mhm.
trying to represent that Shade is learning that she can't be responsible for all of her friends and their actions. She has to trust them and the decisions that they make sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
and obviously that played out very, very well in that scene, and Pog had so many great moments throughout the Feywild adventure. Um, but no, it would have been horrible. She would have been like, "Pfft, absolutely not," and
Lightning bolt.
started a fight. Right, exactly. Started a fight with the Green Knight in which they would have struggled to fight him. He seemed very tough.
I had him statted out. I was ready for a fight if it came to that. I was very nervous about it because, of course, he's armed with a Vorpal sword, and I was really worried about rolling a 20.
Right. And Shade stays in the Feywild now.
So, yeah, I mean, of of the places for a character to just be straight up killed, another plane is not the worst because there's always like some sort of weird story mechanic we can use to get someone back if that's
That's a
what the
good point.
player
Yeah.
wants and if we need it. But man, I was nervous about that one. But yes, no, I also liked the way it played out. And I liked watching you deal with it as Shade. Like Pog was really cool in that moment, but I really enjoyed watching Shade uh wrestle with it, and wrestle with the urge to intervene and not let this happen because oh my gosh, my friend's about to get killed. And so that sort of demonstration of faith in Pog was really neat to watch Shade try to get to. So no, I liked that. I liked that a lot. And yeah, I'm
Well, thank
certain
you.
Shade
I'm
would have
glad that.
attacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was also very glad that Pog was the one who stepped in because I was certain what Shade would do. I wasn't certain what Pog would do. Um, Mia asks, says, I always enjoy watching your reactions to Cal being amazing. Do you ever struggle with feeling like Cal's mother, but also his friend, but also someone you look up to?
Okay, so the wonderfully embarrassing response to this is, Mia, in reading your question, I'm not sure that Casey is not like that with most of my friends. I I probably lean a little bit on the mother side. I like providing my friends food and having snacks for them and making sure they take care of themselves. But I think all of my friends are just also spectacular people. So I just admire what they're capable of. I mean, we see that on here. Philip, you're such a good DM. Like, it's just like, wow, that's so cool. Tell us more.
Hmm.
um, so this question cracked me up because I probably would not have worded my relationship with Cal in that way. But absolutely, it makes sense. Um, I think I tend to do that as a person. For Shade, I think I struggle with Cal sometimes just because he's just the coolest, and I never want to disappoint him by not playing him well and not taking full advantage of all the skills and talents that he has. Um, and so I enjoy his presence, but I sometimes wish I utilized him a little bit better. I think I lean a little bit too much on, um well, I don't lean on myself to play him enough.
Mm. I actually felt that in myself a little bit because I was realizing that in the last episode, man, the Forest Queen should obviously be including Cal in all of these conversations because she would obviously see Cal as every bit as much a part of your adventuring party as Shade does. She wouldn't look at Cal as a pet or just an animal companion. And so I was kind of disappointed in myself that I missed that. Like
Mm,
I feel really good about the whole Feywild arc, but this is the thing that I'm like I missed this cool opportunity to show that element of sort of kinship that Shade feels with the Forest Queen. That part of that is the Forest Queen thinks about animals exactly the way that Shade thinks about animals, is as completely people. Um, and so yeah, so I was able to make up to that a little bit at the end with her handing out rewards and realizing I haven't rewarded Cal, and so rewarding Cal by giving him his wings. Um,
which was so cool.
yes, no, I really liked that. So I'm
But
excited.
it is hard to remember that because, he is autonomous, right? Like,
Yeah.
he isn't viewed as a pet
Hmm.
in in our trio in this world. Um, but also then it's dependent on me to remember that he's autonomous, but also I have to play him,
Hmm.
not just Shade being like, "What you gonna do now, buddy?"
Yes. Um, no, I struggle with that with animal companions always, and it's such a we talked about this when we first initially got Cal. It's such a balancing act, especially when so many characters are now able to converse with Cal because Shade can converse with animals whenever she wants now, and now Ari because of his of a quirk of being able to talk to speak into people's minds. As it turns out, all they have to do is understand a language. It doesn't have to be a language he shares, and so he can talk to Cal now. And so who talks for Cal and
Right.
who moves, like it's a very odd balancing act in animal companions, and I've struggled with that when I've played characters with animal companions. I've never played a character with an animal companion as independent and intelligent as Cal, and so it is very difficult. It is tricky to find the right balance on
Mhm.
where that is. But he is fun, and I'm super excited and nervous about the fact that I've now given you all a flying animal, um, and all of the ways in which that will be used against me in the future.
I need to ask you some questions about that.
Yeah, I'm sure. There are, yeah. I mean, at level 12, y'all being level 12, flight is really not the most amazing of the things that can be done by player characters at this point, but it is a thing. So, uh, well, anyway, that is the last of our questions. We have a new episode for you
Woohoo.
with the triumphant return of Eric coming up this
Yay!
Monday, and we'll have to remember that things were going on in Stormreach when we left. Uh, and return to that for further chaos. So we hope you will return and enjoy that. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can find links to everywhere that we can be contacted in the description below. You can also find a link to our merch store where there is now a Thistle inspired shirt. Um,
I looked at it today, it's so cute.
isn't it cute? I'm really, really very pleased with that. I think that turned out very well. So go check that out. And new episode of Khyber Shards will be out this Monday, and new Khyber Shards answers probably with Eric next Friday. And until next time, Thanks for rolling with us.